Hello everyone, we are back again today with the third devlog in the Sporestride series. This one's coming a bit later on from the other two. That is because I've added quite a bit of stuff since the last installment in the series here. The first major improvement, it's a change, if you will, that I've made, is the way in which we are saving levels. I made such a stupid oversight when I originally put this in, because originally I had just the array in the text files, and then to load the levels and save them, the code would just go through and it would look at each individual character. Now that works until you have IDs that become 2 digits, because then you split them up and then it becomes 2 separate tiles beside each other. So we changed it quick. First number represents the tile's ID, and then the second 2 numbers represent the row and the column, respectively. So that fixes that problem. Another addition that has been added to the game is like decorative tiles that can overlap other ones. That was another problem that we had with the old way of saving levels, but that is fixed now, because now just on one line, on each line, the coordinates they can overlap each other, right? And you can put 2 tiles in the same spot and have it represented in the code just fine. Like you see right here, there is one tile and then another at the same position, and they show up on top of each other. So I will run the game, and I will show you guys what do we have right now. Okay, so you can see we got some more decorative tiles. These are some type of like corroded fungus was my idea with that. I think I might add some particle effects to that eventually too. Same with these like sort of drainage vents here as well. Now the big improvement we have is an improved sort of main game mechanic, and you can see the particles too, which I will get to in a bit. Yeah, so just like last time, there was the ability to do that sort of dash move. So, as I was saying, we still had the original, just that sort of dash mechanic. That's what we had last time. But now, there's the implementation of being able to pass through certain barriers only when you're in that special spore state. So that's sort of one of the main game mechanics, and I played through the level like this a bit, so you can see I sort of expanded our test level here. So yeah, so that's like one of the main mechanics. But then something else I realized was if you go into the spore state and you collide with a tile, you can just hang out there indefinitely, because the way I programmed the game was that you're pulled out of that spore state based on the distance you've traveled from where you entered it. It's not based on any sort of timer. So it would let you hang out there indefinitely, and that sort of gave me the idea to introduce a new mechanic. When you're in the spore state, you can just sort of transition into a little glob that sticks to obstacles. So that's the other thing. It's kind of like a wall grab. Don't mind this. That's just a whole other thing I gotta fix eventually. Yeah, so I'm really happy with how that turned out, actually. You can see over here I have sort of a little test of the way we can use it. You can stick to walls, you can hang out there indefinitely, and then you can jump off the walls. And another cool little mechanic that I actually didn't even explicitly program into the game, I'll try and show it off over here, is if you're attached to a wall and you hold one of the buttons to move left or right, A or D, and then you hit space, you actually get significantly more speed when you hop off. So that's something I can use later on too for more things in the levels. So I'm really happy with how those main game mechanics of the player have turned out. I think they've turned out really well so far. And yeah, I'm quite happy with it. Other addition to the game, as I'm sure you've been able to see, is I created a simple particle system that you can attach to an object, and then it will emit these little spore particles when you move around. So the player himself, when you're just in the normal state, you can see he emits the occasional particle, which I think is pretty neat. I think it looks kind of nice. And then when you actually transition into that actual full spore state, you can see a lot more are being emitted, and it looks kind of neat when you're like traveling along there in that state. So yeah. I think that about covers all the additions that have been made so far to the game. Oh, and I just died there because, yeah, I don't have anything else like that implemented so far. I'll show off maybe the... I can show off maybe the particle class. Yeah, so we have a class for those individual particles themselves, and you can define sort of their speed, their lifetime, how gravity affects them, all sorts of parameters like that, and then those are dealt with in the particle emitter class, which you can instantiate along with an object. So you can instantiate it with the player has that object, and then when you update the particle emitter, it'll emit a bunch of particles surrounding the player. So I'm super happy with how this has turned out so far. One other minor change that has been made to the game is when you're in the air and you go into the spore state, there's no... That animation doesn't play that I originally had before, where the player would... You can see right there, if you're on the ground it'll only play, where the player sort of disappears and only the overalls are left over. Yeah, so I removed that when it was in the air because I thought it might have looked a little bit silly, but it is something I could add back in very easily. It was literally just one line of code I had to change to add that in. So, yeah, I'm really happy with the progress on the game so far. Now, next steps. I'm not sure what the next steps are going to be. I would definitely like to add more decorative and aesthetic features to the game. So I'll probably sprinkle in a few things here and there as I think of them. But other than that, I think I need to flesh out sort of more of the main platforming mechanics of the game. I want to have moving platforms and maybe a couple different enemy types. That's a whole other dilemma though, because I have no idea what I would like to make the enemy types. Maybe some kind of robot, or maybe based around more of these corrupted fungi type deals. And I definitely got to flesh out the more of the nature theme as well, because as of right now we just have this one grass tile, so it doesn't exactly convey any sort of theme yet. And I would like to start working on a background for the game in the near future, but I think that'll come once I have a couple more like main core gameplay elements, so I can really have a nice like complete level that I can show off and really make sure I have a nice feel for the game. Finally, one more thing that I forgot to mention that sort of just a little gameplay element that is baked into that whole spore mechanic is if you go through a barrier and you spore like attached to a wall, you can actually jump off and then like go up around that barrier, which I think is pretty neat. So I'm really happy with that. I think it was I think I got quite lucky actually, because I never planned to have this mechanic in the game at all. It was just sort of showed up out of a random bug. So I'm pretty happy it worked out quite nicely. For my next project, there's definitely going to be a lot more planning and fleshing out that goes into the game before I start working on it. So I think that's going to do it for today's video. I think I covered everything that I need to. But yeah, if you liked this video, thank you for watching, and as always, comments and feedback is always appreciated. And I'm also on itch.io now. I've started a devlog thread there as well, where I will be uploading these videos as well as to YouTube, and just sort of talking about the project a little bit more. So I thank you for watching, and have a good day. Bye bye.